Hi, so let's see if we can get something on screen. Let's go back. So, this is my friend Sam with a hat. And this is a female gorilla. Now, what do these two have in common? Let me tell you a few things about Sam. He is a filmmaker, an accomplished filmmaker, I would say, doing great work. His company is called We Are Not Pilgrims. WAMP is the short for We Are Not Pilgrims. And when I asked him, like, why did you pick that name of your company? He told me this story about the pilgrims, the original sense of the words. It came from the people who traveled from Europe to the New World in the 1600s. They were the pilgrims, and they made a settlement in what is today called Massachusetts, called the Plymouth Colony. So what the pilgrims did, Sam told me, is that they settled. And so the name implies that we are not pilgrims because we do not settle. We do not settle for less than great. We do not settle for less than excellence. So it's sort of like it's not a why, it's not like a vision, but it's sort of telling of the quality or the aim that they have with their work. Now, the gorilla, the female gorilla, is an interesting personality, I would say. Because a female gorilla of a specific kind, she can change her tribe many times during her lifetime, actually up to 6 times. And she does this when she does not find the right conditions to support her. Now, a female gorilla is excellent with networking, and she's excellent with relationships, but above all, she has a very, very strong sense of purpose, and that purpose is, of course, to reproduce, to make cute little gorilla babies. And if she doesn't find the right circumstances for her to achieve that purpose, she will change. She's not very nostalgic or loyal in that sense. If she doesn't find the right conditions, she moves on. So she too does not settle. So that's my little connection between these two images. Neither Sam nor the gorilla does settle. She's driven by purpose. And this brings us into today's topic, because our colleagues, or the talents that we want to attract, the people we work with, they too do not settle if the conditions are not in their favor. If I feel like I'm not getting sort of what I need, if I don't feel like I get sort of fulfilled at my workplace, I can move on in the worst case scenario, or at least my engagement goes down. So that's why we are going to talk about human onboarding.
Great, Gustav. Yeah, the theme today is human onboarding, and we have heard a lot of data today, hasn't we? Like AA, yeah. Our mission here today is really to fulfill the transformation, because you can't move anywhere if you don't have the people on board. We agree on that one. The human onboarding is something that we have been working with for a couple of years now, and we have been throughout many change processes, too many transformation plans we've seen, forgotten really about us humans. It's going from A to B in a really scheduled way, time frames, price frames, efforts, everything, calculations, but sometimes and almost every time we forget to design the journey for engagement. How to get the people wanting to join, wanting to learn, and want to do it differently. They compare here with Sam. They looked a bit alike also, didn't they? The gorilla female and Sam. Don't tell him. But
he said himself. I showed him the photos and said, we look the same.
We look the same.
He was okay.
Yeah. So our purpose here is really to give you some insights how to design the transformation phase and also design for engagement. So don't forget the people on board. Otherwise, they will jump to another flock, won't they? Yeah. So onboarding is the topic, and we will guide you through with some facts and figures from our own know-hows. 25% Day 2 State of Software Happiness Reports. Have anyone read it? As a report came, the latest one in March, investigating how we as employees really think about the structure software that we have at work. Does it gain us from productivity? Does it gain us from being more comfortable at work or not? 25% answered this statement in March that my software design, my structure and digital ecosystem within my work, present work today, is so badly. So I really think of leaving my organization. Think about that. If you are in a meeting, every fourth person around the table is really thinking about leaving because the infrastructure is so bad that you don't feel you get the right productivity out of your purpose. It's a huge figure. And also at the same statement, 95% of the people said that if I got the right system, if I've got the right structure and ecosystem for infrastructure, I will be more productive. So it's a lot of potential being held in solutions that is digital or technical. That figure is a big figure, but we think the figure should look a little bit differently if we focus on the right things. We are certain that the systems is quite good out there. Perhaps you don't agree, but most of the system is okay. There's a lot of systems that are alike, but we have sort of product them in a differently way. But the main issue is really to get the system being used by us, people, at the right time, for the right skills, and to be a part of new ways of working. And we people are lazy. Did you know that? We almost every time choose to do the same habit we did yesterday. Like we think 95% of our thoughts is the same we thought yesterday. You heard this before. So we are a bit lazy by nature. So the only thing that really makes us enjoy to change is making it easier or making it a bit more fun. So when we design for transformation in any kind, we must address making it easier or make it a bit more fun. I don't know about you guys, but I've been in sort of many transformations who didn't was any great fun at all. You recognize it? It was a bit painful from the start to the beginning, and it never ended. It's not fun. So, for you to recognize human onboarding is getting more fun out there. We need to have more fun. We are at the theater. It's fun here, isn't it? So, by our now been working with different assignments, we are doers. We like to do things. Our company's name are Doings. We thought of how to ensure the engagement in the transformation phase in any sort of system implementation. We came up with our change model like a mindset, helping people and companies to create engagement throughout the transformation. We call it the Make It Happen model. Easy, isn't it? It's what it's all about. Making us do things, getting the strategies, the plans, the ideas out to your hands and your feet. Otherwise, it's just a great plan, isn't it? We have to make things. So in our mindset model, we have 3 phases, really easy. Make it happen, make the change, and then make the change last. So we are going to guide you a bit through this, giving you some examples how to design for engagement. Are you with us? Perfect. Let's go.
Good.
Gustav.
So the first phase of this model is that the make it happen phase. And this happens actually before you push any button. Let's say we're going to implement a new system that's going to help us in my workplace. Before we even start like plugging it in, we want to work. This is how we do it in Doings. We work start with the management team, for example, to create the understanding of why we are doing this. And this is very important. Like Anna said just prior to us, talking about AI, the vision is many times forgotten. Why are we doing this? And this needs to be communicated, and not just once. Maybe someone said like, "Oh, I wrote it in a newsletter to the company, so they all know." That's not enough. You need to communicate it in many ways, in different ways, so that sort of like it sinks down into the organization. People understand why we're doing the change. Communicating the vision, the purpose of it. That's important. Then what is about behaviors? Working with the behaviors that, first, the behaviors that support this transformation that we're going to do, this new system that we're going to implement. So what behaviors that we use today is supporting this cause? Then what behaviors is counterproductive, work against what we want to achieve? Those behaviors we want to stop with. And then what are the behaviors or the new habits that we want to create? Maybe we need to create some new ways of working. So it's about sort of like identifying these behaviors. The behaviors we want to continue with, stop with, and start with. The last phase, or like the last point in this phase, is what we call it. And it's about the individual. What do I want? How do I connect to this? Because engagement and commitment does not come from like a group of people or just arises out of thin air. It comes from individuals, from their behaviors, from their sort of like emotions put into behaviors. So how do you sort of create engagement in individuals? Well, you let them talk about, for example, how we work with this is many times in workshop format. So if we're going to implement this new system and we have a group of managers who have just begun to learn how the old system worked, just getting sort of like, oh, now I finally know how to use this system, and now it's been decided that we're going to throw this out and start with this new way of working, a new system. I mean, it's going to create resistance, not so high engagement, maybe fear of not having control, whatever it can be, very sort of human basic things coming up. What we do is talking about it, putting the elephant on the table and like putting these kind of fears or worries out there, so that the individual get a chance to kind of talk about it with their co-managers, for example, and see that I'm not alone with this worry. We all have this, so that's cool. We can do this together. But also kind of connect my individual sort of sense of purpose with the overall for the company. What's in it for me? That sort of thing. And an example from I'm a colleague with Lena at Doings, but my assignment or where I work right now is as a customer success manager for a digital tool called Weekly, which is like employee survey that goes out on a weekly basis, provides an organization with data of how their employees perceive their situation at work, and this data is used to develop the organization and make things better. Now we have a client that is one of our very successful clients. We use them always as role models or examples because they really sort of implemented Weekly in a lot of processes in their organization. In one-on-ones, they use the data from Weekly to talk about between manager and employee, between HR and CEO. They make their priorities from this data, or like in the management team. So they use it a lot in many different ways, very creatively. But there's one team in this organization. When I speak to my contact at HR, the manager there, our champion, she's a bit worried about one team because they have much less response frequency. The manager feels reluctant to using the system, doesn't really know how to. His engagement is lower, and thus they don't seem to get that sort of like the use of Weekly out into all parts of the organization, particularly this one. And it so happens to be that this manager of this team is the only person of the management team that did not participate in this process, in this workshop, where we worked with the why, the what, and the want. And it's so clear when looking at this organization that he didn't do that because his engagement and the whole team's engagement is so much, it's lesser than the rest. How can he sell in an idea to his team if he himself has not bought into it? Right? So, next phase.
Yeah. The next phase in the transformation development process is really that we start seeing the change. In this example of system implementation, you start to try it out. You can perhaps already seen it on the data screen. Then we have some designer tips. It's really to start small. You heard it before also. But it's important because we are humans, and when we come to change, we have a natural resistance. So we even can notice if we talk about change as development, we get a bit smarter. We listen more if we say development and not change. We're pretty complex in that way. And if we are in a change situation, we need more energy. It takes more energy to us to act. So we really have to start small, focusing in doing things small right, and then take the next step. Not to get the front lobe, which one is the part of the brain that we use in change processes, and to do new habits. And train perhaps one new behavior at a time. And just making it sure, yeah, I got it, and then go further. So start small, not big. Use perhaps development more than change. Reward thinking is also one of the parts that we as humans like. Anyone counted their Facebook likes recently? We like to get liked, okay? And that we have to use also in transformations at work, because everyone likes to get liked at work as well. That's life. So it's important to think about when we do this change, how can we reward people along the way? How can we get them to feel satisfied having accomplished something along the way? Not when we are finished, but along the way. It's really, really important. And here is a quite simple example is from my latest assignment. We had like this retrospective nights. We called it fuck-up nights, but yeah. And we really shared during the way the most failure mistakes we have made the latest week. And we shared it to everyone so we can be vulnerable together. And we could also reward things that the biggest problem that has been solved. Just to let know that it is hard to change. Nothing will come easily in this one, but when we manage to break through, this is a great reward. So thinking reward, how to reward the people in the organization along the way, is really important. Once I gave some of my colleagues some chocolate when they answered a questionnaire. It's something you like, chocolate, it's okay. And it's physical, rewarding. You've done something great, here you go, a chocolate. So it can be easy or it can be really along the whole way in a design phase like forums, like fuck-up nights. Continuous learning, it's just along the way. Change for us is a movement. It's not going A to B. I don't know if anyone reflects on the latest change process you've been within, but it never tends to end, does it? We start all over again. And I think, and we know, if we work with it as a mindset of movement going forward, it's not that hard when we realize we will never end this. It will never stop. So it's important to focus on, along the way, what do we learn from our mistakes, but also from the things we really find out quickly. Gustav, you mentioned, like, what have we done that was a success this latest week? What have we done that was a quite big mistake? Or what have we done that shouldn't been a part of this journey? Or something we must add on? And that's the agile way also, working with continuously learning. So that is the phase, make the change. Make it last is really a hard part for us because most of us are starters. We think it's really delightful to start something, to enjoy the start of something. But when we have done it in a while, and it's a bit resistant, I don't know about you, but it's the typical New Year's Eve, the promises we give of training and eating and exercising, you know, everything. It tends to be a bit lower activity in March. So it goes quite quickly when we start something and we forget about why we started it. So reminding about the why, but also along the way, giving the constantly feedback on why we are doing this and why you are important to combine to the overall purpose. That's important. Feedback both in group or individual. And the champion, you talk about the champion at your assignment, Gustav. It's important also to have people driving the transformation and the change with us, who have some extra training about the change that has been or going to be done, who can be our sort of communicators, the ones who drives the change through, telling the story of success, giving energy to the others. So design also for a champion organization who can have the extra strive for the purpose that gives the energy to the other in the groups. And nudging is sort of something that had exploding. We have all of this function in the society for us to level up things. And we know that the brain also get a bit smarter if we get to play a bit. So gamification is a huge part of learning today in our organization as well. But to be able to nudge the change to happen is important. Let me give you some example. This wasn't an assignment of us, but I give it anyway. It's an overall example. Some of you heard the example of the London parks having huge trouble with all the trash in the parks. So no one wanted to go to the park to have picnic because it was so much trash. So they figure out, what can we do about the bin? The bins must have been wrong because the trash doesn't go to the bin. So they made the bin larger, easier to put the trash in, larger bins. It didn't help. They made many more bins and put in the parks. Easier to put trash in the bins. It didn't help. But some smart woman said, perhaps we could do some sound in the bin.
Can I make the sound?
Really, the sound in the bin.
Can I make the sound?
Yeah, you can make a sound. Yeah, lovely sound. Thank you, Gustav.
Thank you.
And what did you think happened? One person threw her trash in the bin. The sound, beautiful sound. Came. Another one heard it. I wonder if it sounds if I threw the trash as well. It started to put some trash from the ground because my pocket was empty with trash. And then you sort of stimulated a habit of throwing trash because you liked the sound, not because it was bigger or not because there were more of bins, but because we could nudge the behavior of throwing trash. So in the next transformation phase and change process, think about how you can turn the bins and get the trash in the bins. Remember this beautiful sound of Gustav's as well. Yeah, thank you, Gustav.
Thank you.
This is the make it last phase, to make us persistently change, even though it's a bit hard, and put some more extra energy in doing something we are not having as a habit. Yeah.
So, we just talked about our 3 phases of this change model, and 3 takeaways that we want you to bring with you. If you remember something from this presentation, try to remember this. The why. The bigger why, like the why of the whole organization or the whole team, and then the individual why with the behaviors. Then start doing small steps and try not to be so scared of failing, but do it anyway. And then focus on learnings. What can we learn from our failures? We can use retrospect, look back, what went well, what didn't go so well. Celebrate the didn't go so wells as well. If we manage to kind of get this people perspective into our change processes, into our system implementations, then we might create environments that our coworkers, that ourselves kind of can thrive in and feel comfortable in and inspired in. And if we don't, we might facilitate gorillas to change habitats. Our coworkers might leave us, or at least get less engaged than they could be. So it's important. Bring the humans into the change. So, where are we? Are we good?
We have one more, if it's okay. We love doing things, of course, doings as we are, but we would like for you also to do some things. Is that okay with you? Yeah. So just realize and imagine your ongoing change at work. Someone has some change processes ongoing? Something's changing, or is it just the same every day? Look at one of the changes ongoing, some transformation ongoing, and from out, make it happen. As you heard, did you really design for engagement? In that transformation, this journey of change, did you design for engagement? And talk to your neighbors at the table, just for 1 minute each. What did you do that was super great, engaging the employees on board, or your engagement? Or what didn't designed for? What did you perhaps forget?